How did you know that you wanted to work in creative arts?
Well, I think it's when you're first exposed to something and your brain goes insane and you just can't stop doing it. You know, that's, you know you should be doing something if you're like your parents deny you stuff and you're just doing it anyway, like flashlight under the covers and all that. I remember I was like 9 or 10 years old and I'd already been consuming like movies and comic books and all these things, and they were exciting, but you know, they weren't yours, you were just doing little doodles. And I remember when I was a little kid, I went into this little hairdresser place in Hawaii where I lived at the time. My dad was getting his hair cut, and there was like this beam of light shining onto this little table. And on the little table was this stack of the most like wild, audacious, insane magazines. And now I know that it was this art magazine from artists that were all from Europe and all this kind of stuff, and my little 9-year-old eyes should not have been looking at any of it. But it was so exciting and so illicit and so wild, I like grabbed a couple and all I could do was like flip through every page, and I just wanted to draw. I just wanted to do it and copy it and copy it. And that was literally like, you know, 37 years ago or some crazy thing. And it's been just constant, just trying to create that stuff that I saw, and now turning it around and feeding it back to other young people when they see my stuff, and then they want to consume it and they want to go crazy. So it's like this kind of like giant art snake biting its tail forever, which is dope. I just think artists in general, like when I was a kid and I told you that little story about finding that singular magazine, our access to inspiration was arguably super tiny compared to today. Like I'm inspired now by like just a throng of artists that I've never met in the flesh. I follow them through social media, I'm watching their presentations, I'm purchasing their $10 Gumroad tutorials on how to do this or how to do that, and you're literally, there's like no excuse to like be idle or bored anymore as an artist. If you want to figure something out or explore something, hopefully, let's say you have access, you know, to the internet or through your smartphone, you can follow and explore some really mind-blowing, incredible stuff that I didn't get when I was a little kid. So the students that are studying today or having their minds blown today or wanting to be in front of something that like stirs them and moves forward, the opportunities and the inspiration, it's like SoundCloud for music, there's like ArtStation and CG Hub and everything for art. You can just like, I'm at work all day, I work in video games, and I'll just turn on like ArtStation, and it's literally like a giant page of like 65 different pieces of art that have been created from Korea to Paris, and it's like updating, you know, every 45 minutes from around the world. And you're gonna see something and you just can't look away. You click on it, you dive into that person's portfolio, learn about who they are, you can direct message them, and you can be like, hi, my name's Jude, I'm in Canada, I just saw your amazing painting. How did you do that to the water? I just don't know, blah, blah, blah. You've made a connection, you're inspired, like, it's really quite fun. Yeah, we live in such an instant world, I promise you. Like they say, you know, it takes 7 years to get good at anything. And like no one under the age of 30 has like 7 years for anything. They're like, what? They're like, I saw my YouTube tutorial, it's like 7 minutes later and I should be excellent at it now. I beg you to just apply yourself, and when you see like beautiful art, whether it's film, whether it's a painting, whether it's a rug or something, and you're like, I want to do that, and you do it, and you spend a weekend trying, and then you compare your effort with that, and you're like, wah, wah. That's just barely the beginning. It's all good. The journey is hilarious. Even the best artists, like, oh my God, it's rude. I didn't mean to say best artist and then talk about myself now. What I mean is, even like I'm sitting down, I'll take 3 to 4 months to do a painting. And it looks like just like garbage for like 2.5 months, and it's so funny on some of the software. So I work in digital media, so there's this evil thing on my iPad which records a video of every brushstroke. So I've played back, like, you know, you can look at any of these pieces of art here and they're finished, that's that final thing. But you can like hit a button and watch the video of your ridiculous journey over 6 hours on the software today, which is amazing. First it's like, you know, an elephant, then it's a rabbit, and then it's a woman with a handgun in an alley. Like, how did I get here? So you don't know where you're gonna end up. But when you do finish it and you trust, it is such a wonderful feeling to put it in front of other people and just see their reaction, and you just get that amazing warm glow. So it's fantastic.
Could you possibly elaborate on that? Because I'm aware that you do environmental design for video games. What does it mean to you when you finally see your creation all over media?
So yeah, I work in video games, which is similar to film and television, except film and television, they do stuff in like microseconds, and they prepare for like a movie in like only like 30 days, and they just... So in video games, we will get a script. I'm an environment artist, so if I was making the video game of this world, I would be building the stadium and the floor, and we'd be coming up with surfacing, and everything in a video game has to be crafted by hand, by a human being, with direction and collaboration from up to 120 people. And so we are working on this madness for up to 3 years. And just the stress of, are we going in the right direction, changing the story, and all these things that affects all of your art, whether you're doing this, all the stages that go into it are so labor intensive, and it just does not look the way you want it to look, literally until, I want to say, the last 5 months of those 3 years. And you just have to have the faith, the publisher has to have the faith. So it's very similar to doing that single painting over 3 months, except you're dancing wrapped in barbed wire with 85 other people in real time for 3 years. So it's really interesting. So if you ever get a chance to like create art with someone else, I highly recommend that, because it might cause conflict and weirdness, but in the end you're really going to grow, because hopefully you surround yourself with people that they do stuff that you don't know how to do, and then you can fold that into yourself. So that's really cool.
So for our next question.
I would say erase a lot, and copy. No one learned how to ride a bike alone in the cul-de-sac. Someone said, this is how you ride a bike, you put your foot over here, you copied another person before you. That's what we do, there's legacy, we hand stuff down. I had the lamest art teacher in high school, and it was like, you're not allowed to use an eraser, you can't go back, you can't make changes. What? That just goes against everything. You need to constantly correct, adjust, reformulate, but you're always moving forward. And if it comes to just pure art, like figure study and all these kind of things, life drawing classes, copy, trace. Buy tracing paper, trace stuff. It doesn't matter how much you copy or trace or emulate, your personal style will punch through and you will be your own thing after a certain amount of time. 100%. But you have to start somewhere. No way to reach them, and I was just like, how could I create this? How can I do this? And so for me, it was the humble bedroom desk with the little reading lamp, the cliche, just drawing and drawing and drawing, and then like showing people at school, and they're like, dude, that's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, that's dope, how'd you do that? And you just keep drawing, and you keep getting that, positive feedback, and it sounds really bizarre, but we're all, I don't want to speak to everybody, but there's a little bit of performer in you. You're putting your sweat equity on that page, and you're like sharing it, and there's that nervousness, but it's such a wonderful feeling, like when you get that feedback of love and appreciation, and you kind of like, you get that little glitter inside of you for a while, you kind of get addicted to it. And so then you start seeing again those people that you wish you could do those kind of things, and you run towards it. But along the way is where you are now. We're always along the way, and we're creating our stuff along the way. And so I don't think I'll ever get to that place that I created of those European graphic novelist art gods. But that's not the point. The point is I might be that now to someone younger, right? You're always someone else's European graphic novelist art god, so that's how it works. You're someone else's. Craft macaroni and cheese. There's nothing. It's terrible. $19,000 a year is way below the poverty line, and that's like where I was in the '90s. I had all of this art, and I wanted to work in the video game industry. And then I looked at schools, and they were like 30, 40 grand, and I just couldn't, so I was like working in a warehouse, like in phone sales, and I just couldn't stop drawing, and I just drew, and I drew, and I drew, but I was poor, no one loved me, and it was raining all the time. And then, it was so funny you should say that, Tisha, because at 26 was when it just clicked all for me as well, because I had applied at Electronic Arts, I went on this tour, and I was like, oh my god, and I drew on the whiteboard, and some producer said, you should work here, and then I applied, and they said, you shouldn't work here, and then, very confusing for a young person, and, but I just kept building this portfolio. Arguably it was a 2D portfolio, but you need to know that you do not know who is going to see your stuff or who you might encounter. So it was an art director at Electronic Arts at the time that saw my portfolio because it was brought in by my now wife who I was dating. Her brother worked at the company and he said they blah, blah, blah. So I never even applied, but someone who knew I had zero skill within that industry. I did not do 3D, I had no training, I hadn't sat in front of a computer to create art, saw the portfolio, even though it was two-dimensional, he was an artist. And he went, I get this, I see the soul, training in software, that's just stuff, that's just time. Talent, you can't just create, and I got the interview. But so during those struggles, you know, for 5 years, I just didn't stop creating that portfolio, and it equaled, you know, where I am today. So that was pretty awesome. You know, you can't starve completely. You have to like keep it alive. I have a little quick, my nephew, Shane Molina, he just moved to the big island of Hawaii, and he's opened his first art gallery in Hilo, Hawaii. He grew up in my shadow, in my bedroom, watching me draw, and he was always like, oh, uncle, when I grow up, I'm gonna be a famous artist. And that's all he said. Like, he just kept drawing and drawing and drawing and drawing, but you know, he had like terrible little jobs and he was always struggling and he fell in love and he wanted to have this family. But what's really been exciting, especially for the youth today, is through social media, he just, like you were saying, he just kept putting himself out there. And I actually I struggle with this myself, but he was just like this brilliant like marketing person. Because I'm like an artist and I'm like, I gotta do my original stuff or it has no value. And my nephew does these amazing original things, but then he was like, yeah, but I'm also gonna draw stuff that's popular to get attention. And I'm not saying go off and draw Mickey Mouse, but talking to people about social media, talking about ways to pivot your, like, kind of like insert yourself into like the global market is also a testament to, like, he's now got his own place in Hawaii that he's running because he would start doing fan art for all the Marvel stuff, all the Star Wars stuff, and he's an artist, and he just loved drawing anyway. So he kept putting it out. He would come to shows similar to this. There's shows like this called Comic-Con and all that. It's more for pop culture, you know, Anime Expo, and he would do all that. And he slowly built this like massive following where he would then do art on demand for people all over the world. They'd be like, hey, draw me Alien from blah, blah, blah. And he would just do it. And it wasn't about art, but it was supporting his art. So he was actually way smarter than I ever was because I just thought I needed that art job and that was my only job. He figured out how to be creative, to give other people joy through art, but then create his own original art, which now he has his gallery. So it's this really neat kind of like back and forth. And again, social media and reaching out through the internet is what really helped him. Yeah, so it's so fantastic, and it's not something you even think about, but they think about it, and it's just being aware. And 10, 12 years ago, there was like, it was just a sea of nerdy men, you know, in my industry. And it was, oh, you mean comic books are only for boys, and all this kind of weird stuff. But it's always men having those stupid conversations. Women don't have those conversations. They're like, it's just comic book, I'm reading this dope ass stuff, I love Thor. And it ends there, and you're just supposed to love and consume media, it doesn't matter. So if now, like, it's just so cool, you shouldn't think about it. I know it sounds like, oh yeah, like a dude is talking about women's stuff, but in my industry, I am now, which is really cool, over the last 20 years, surrounded by cool, inspiring women that I'm just like, oh, teach me, how'd you do that? Oh my God. And then when I'm on, like my favorite artist is Loish. It's Louis van Barrel. She's a Dutch artist. And her stuff is just amazing. And I've been following her from like, I want to say 15 years through the industry, as she would just like post her art. Now she's doing like speaking things. And her art just excites hundreds of thousands of people around the world. And hopefully no one thinks, oh, a woman do that. I'm not, what? No, it's just, there's this artist, she's a powerhouse and she creates opportunities. And then a young person is gonna see her and go, hey, I can see myself in that person. So I think, hopefully we don't even have this question in a decade, or 2 years, or 10 minutes. Because you know, you just want to look up. So for me, you're right. It wasn't fair. In the '70s, it was a dude party. Like when I looked at all the comic book artists and all the stuff, they were guys. I can tell you right now, I can't even think of a single woman except for Julie Bell. Her and her husband did this amazing fantasy art back in the '70s. But now you can list hundreds. Like if you go on ArtStation, it's just fantastic. So I think we're in a really healthy spot, hopefully, but we have a ways to go. Yeah, I think. Like, you know, in the 50s, you're like, I want to be an artist, and they slapped you and they said, be a lawyer. In just general, like hopefully now, like you say, I want to be an artist, and they go, oh, that's lovely. And I know that's not the same for everybody, but it should just be across the board. We now have schools that accept anybody. I have a feeling probably in the 20s and 30s, and if you wanted to get into animation or art, there was probably some guy behind a desk. You know, the needle, the eye of the needle was so small and it was so restrictive, and that's been blown open because now if you have access to the internet, you can train yourself and you can do whatever. Like all the artists, the female artists that I follow, funny enough, they didn't even go to school. They were all self-taught. They're just promoting themselves, and they have a platform, and if people want to jump on that platform, they can. So I use WordPress, and it's for my blog, and you can post a piece of art, and what's really fun about WordPress is you can look at the stats, and it actually is an entire map of the Earth, and it shows the hits and the views that you've had from around the world. So at any given point in time, it's so really kind of wild and surreal to open up one of your paintings and then look that 7 people from France, 9 people from Mongolia, a bunch of people from Brazil, 2 people from Korea, 14 from Russia, and then like I'll get like a little email from like a woman in Brazil, because I'll post, you know, like a tutorial of how to make, you know, a 3D sky dome like in a certain kind of a video game, and she'll be like, I saw your post, just reaching out, how do we do that? And now you're talking to someone from Brazil in a totally different time zone. And so I think most artists today, if they're active and sharing, their inspirations and who they're sharing with are definitely not local, at least from my point of view, or my experience, I mean from just pure digital media. You know, brick and mortar stuff is very real, and you need a community and like music and all that kind of stuff. But if you're able to get online, it's truly international. It's crazy, the messaging and the information going back and forth. Google Translate. I think everyone is chatting far more than they've ever talked about art before.
Thank you so much to all the panelists. At this time, I would like to open the floor up for questions. So if you have any questions, I'll come around and hand the microphone to you.
How do you choose your pricing, and what do you suggest for people who are buying art in terms of how they look at pieces and the prices?
I totally agree. I think we undervalue ourselves too much. It's so funny how many messages you get. Hi, I see you're an artist. Can you draw me blah, blah, blah? I've got $30. And then you draw a circle and say $30, please. Yeah, people don't understand. So what I do is, let's say someone wants me to draw something. Because I was involved in concept art in the video game industry, it's roughly $90 an hour is what I do to myself. I say, you know what, if I'm working on this all day for 7 hours, and I go times 90, and I kind of look at that amount. And then I go, is it my aunt asking me to do this? And then I'll get it in half. And then if it's a stranger or something, no, you stick to what it's worth, and you're very clear about that, and people will value you more. So I don't have a direct, like, it should be $300 for a 30 by 30 or whatever, but it's how much does it cost for you to produce? Like, it's going to cost you $250, you know, to have your canvas print made just out of pocket. So you should be selling that no matter what at double or more. People will value it. Like, you are worth the money.
Yeah, and I think it's important that people stop asking for favors for art. Like, if you support if you support your friends and you know that they're doing well, you pay them for their time and you stop asking for them to design things for you for nothing. Because I'm a designer.
Amen.
I'm not a designer, but I have many friends that are designers, and like, it's an industry, and I think that people just forget that. And you need to tell your friends that too.
Yeah.